All right, these are the 8.1 notes for trig. We're going to be solving right triangles, which we did earlier this year. So just a quick refresher, we have sine is O over H, cosine is A over H, and tangent is O over A. And we're going to use that to help us solve these. So the directions say use the right triangle trig to find x in each triangle and round the answers to the nearest tenth place. You have your steps along the left-hand side. The first thing we're going to do is label the sides O, A, and H. And what I like to do is just label two of the sides. And in most of the problems, you'll have two sides that have either a number or a variable on it. And those are the two that I label. I just kind of leave the other one off. So 50 degrees is in the bottom right corner, which would make x opposite, and 13 adjacent. And then the hypotenuse side is completely blank. I'm not even going to put an h there. Then what I'm going to do is because I have O and A, I'm going to use tangent. So again, because I have O and A, I'm going to use the tangent. I'll set it up as a tangent of 50 degrees equals opposite over adjacent. Then I solve for x. For this problem, that means multiplying by 13. Then it's time to use our calculator. So whatever calculator you're using, the first step is to make sure that we are in degree mode. So go to mode, scroll down to where it says radians degrees, scroll over to highlight degree, hit enter. And if you're using the Chromebook, you'll notice that all the way at the top up here, it says now we're in degree mode. And then you're going to type in 13 times the tangent of 50. All right. And I'm rounding to the nearest tenth place, which would give me x equals 15.5. All right, let's take a look at the second one. 39, so the 96 is the adjacent, and the x is the hypotenuse. The opposite side has nothing on it, so I'm not even going to label it. Because I have A and H, I'm going to use the cosine. So we'll set it up as the cosine of 39 degrees equals 96 over x. So to solve for x, the first thing I need to do is get the x out from the denominator by multiplying by x on both sides. This gives me x times cosine of 39 equals 96. Then I can divide by the cosine of 39 degrees. Canceling those two. And then into our calculator, 96 divided by the cosine of 39. Highly encourage you to practice this in your calculator just to make sure that you understand how your calculator is working. Still in degree mode. Gets us an answer of 123.5. 123.5. All right, example 3. For example 3, this time I'm going to be actually finding the angle. So notice also that the angle is in the top left corner, as opposed to the bottom right. So that means the 2 now becomes the opposite side. The 7 is the hypotenuse, which means because I'm working with O and H, I'm going to use sine. The sine of x equals 2/7. And now to solve for x, we need to get rid of the sign. So this sign is not the same as dividing out. It's not sine times x, it's sine of x, which means we have to do the opposite of sine. And the opposite of sine is inverse sine. So either you're going to use inverse sine, inverse cosine, or inverse tangent. And thankfully there's a button on our calculator that'll do this for us. So what we do is we inverse sine on both sides. So I'm literally just going to write sine -1 on each side and then bring down my equation. Sine inverse and sine over here on the left cancel out. And that's how I get the x by itself. Pull up the calculator. And your inverse sine is located right on the same button that your sine is. Notice right here. To access that, we're going to hit the second button. Or if you're using the Calculator app, it'll be a shift. So second sine, or sine inverse, of 2/7. 2 divided by 7. And that gets us 16.6 degrees. Again, still in degree mode. Right, example 4. We've got x back in the bottom right-hand corner. So we'll label our opposite as the 18, adjacent as the 27. Which trig function uses O and A? That would be tangent. So that's how you know you need to use tangent and not sine or cosine. Opposite over adjacent. And then we're going to inverse tangent. So again, tangent to the -1 on one side. And again, tangent to the -1 on the other side. Everything else just copies down into the problem. Tangent inverse and tangent cancel. And then we type that into the calculator. Inverse tangent, second, or shift tangent. Make sure it pops up as tangent to the -1. 18 over 27, or divided by 27. Rounded to the nearest degree, that would get us 33.7 degrees. Now on the back side, we have a few story problems that we're going to work through. But each of these is just going to be a triangle, so pretty limited on what options we have as far as solving these. The first thing I recommend always on story problems is draw a picture. The pictures, the triangles are going to be much more approachable than trying to just figure this out. So we've got a ship offshore from a vertical cliff. So I'm literally just going to draw my cliff right here. You've got a ship off in the distance. And then you've got your water right here. Don't make fun of my drawings. All right. So the vertical cliff is 100 feet in height. And then this ship is taking a sighting of the top of the cliff. So there's someone in this ship, and they're looking upwards towards the top of the cliff. If the angle of elevation is 25 degrees, angle of elevation means when somebody is down low, looking up. So from a low object, looking up to a higher object. So that would be the 25 degrees right there. And we want to know how far offshore, here's the shore, right? How far offshore is the ship? So we're looking for this distance. Once you set it up, you'll recognize the triangle. It's another right triangle, so we're going to be able to do that the same way we did on the front side, using either sine, cosine, or tangent. Label the sides that we know. We know the 100 is the opposite. The adjacent is the x. We're not worried about the hypotenuse. That's not included in this problem. So O and A means we're going to use tangent. Tangent of 25 degrees equals 100 over x. I have to start by multiplying by x, getting the x out of the denominator. Then I can divide by the tangent of 25 to get the x by itself. And then we go to the calculator. Calculator still in degrees. And we'll type in 100 divided by the tangent. Notice I'm using the regular tangent button here, not tangent inverse. So the tangent of 25. They asked us to round to the nearest tenths place, so 214.4, and the 5 would bump that up. So 214.5, and we may as well put our label on it, feet. All right, good. Let's look at the next one, example number 6. You are flying a kite. It's probably been a while since you've flown a kite, if you ever have. So just a reminder, a kite is up in the air like this, and the wind blows it away from you. And that's how it flies, right? So you're holding on to the string and it's kind of blowing at an angle. The kite is never directly above you. It's not like a balloon where it's floating directly above you. It's always at an angle. So you're flying a kite. The kite string is 85 feet long. So there's our 85 feet. And the angle of elevation from you to the kite is 70 degrees. So again, you looking up from the ground, 70 degrees. How high is the kite off the ground? So we're looking for this distance right here, x. Round to the nearest whole number. Start by labeling the sides. The sides should be O and H. And then see if you can set up the equation. Take a second, see if you can set up the equation. All right, your equation should look like that. And to solve this, you would multiply by 85 to get the x by itself. Type into the calculator 85 times the sine of 70. And it says round that to the nearest, whole number. So 79.8 would round up to 80. And again, we're talking about feet here. Label's not necessary, but it is nice. Last problem, example 7, we have an elm tree this time. All right, let's see, we'll get our little elm tree like that. And an elm tree casts a shadow of 42 feet. Now, when something casts a shadow, we see the shadow show up on the ground. So you have the shadow that's happening like down here. So the shadow is 42 feet. And then it tells me that the tree is actually 68 feet. What is the angle of elevation to the nearest whole degree from the base of the shadow, which would be here, looking up to the top of the tree? So we're looking for that x right there. Start by labeling the two sides that you have, the 68 and the 42, and then see if you can set up an equation. All right, you should have labeled O and A, which means you should have chosen tangent. And then in order to get rid of the tangent and get the x by itself, we are going to inverse tangent on both sides. Those cancel, x equals, and then we type it into our calculator one more time. Inverse tangent, you'd hit second or shift, and then the tangent, making sure it pops up as tangent to the -1, and then 68 divided by 42. It says round to the nearest whole degree, which would give us 58 degrees.